Even though I married Keith, I didn't get along well with my mother-in-law and her son, Shane. However, one day, through Shane, my mother-in-law invited me to go to Hawaii. I thought that through this trip, maybe I could get closer to them. I greeted the day with such faint hope. Before boarding, I entrusted my wallet to my mother-in-law, and then she handed me divorce papers.
What? Why?
It's because you can't get along with Shane and me, right? Keith complained about you a lot. He's fed up, you know. My mother-in-law sneered at me, who was in a daze, and then went to the boarding gate with my wallet. I looked at the divorce paper in disbelief, and my eyes widened. This is Shane's handwriting. I felt a surge of intense anger. Enjoy my time with my real family. The fake mom can just sleep outside. I replied with a smile to Shane, who sneered at me. Okay. Until now, I've been patient because I was a part of Keith's family. But I'm done. I will make them regret trampling on my feelings. I am Macy, a 50-year-old housewife. I work as a florist and, using my qualification in flower coordination, I also undertake decorating event venues and wedding reception halls. I divorced 10 years ago due to my husband's infidelity, and thought I was done with marriage, but then I met Keith, who runs an event planning company, 3 years ago and remarried him after a year of dating. Unlike my previous husband, Keith is not good at small talk and is not a fan of forced smiles, but he is sincere and serious. For me, who has lost both of my parents, he is a reassuring and important person when we are together. I cherish these happy days, but there was one thing that bothered me. Shane, the child from his previous marriage, still hasn't opened up to me. Of course, I tried to make an effort. As the person in charge of cooking, I first understood his food preferences, and to create common topics of conversation, I bought CDs of his favorite band and listened to them enough to be able to sing them at karaoke. If he mentioned a drama he watched, I watched the same drama, and when I heard that a lottery for his favorite streaming service started at a convenience store, I drew a lottery and gave him the prize as a gift. But it seems all of them missed the mark. You know, stop trying to win me over. I was truly shocked when he said this to me. I'm not trying to win you over. I just want to get along. When I pleaded, Shane grimaced deeply. I'm not planning on becoming a family with you. Just leave me alone. His dismissive tone stabbed me like a knife. What makes matters worse is that Shane acts friendly towards me in front of Keith. Come to think of it, even before we got married, when we went out together several times, Shane showed a friendly smile and talked to me in a friendly manner. So I was under the impression that we would get along after marriage. I was prepared that it would be difficult for an adult child to call me mom, but when Keith was not around, Shane called me even worse. Hey, old lady. Refill the water in the fridge. Where are my socks? He seems to switch between names depending on his mood. You know, when are you going to learn our family's taste? My deceased mom was a much better cook. It's so annoying that you act like a mom even though you can't even cook properly. He constantly nagged and made sarcastic remarks, so I couldn't take it anymore and asked him. Shane, if there is anything I'm lacking, please tell me. I'll try to improve. Then Shane, with a twisted smile, said, Think for yourself. You've got a brain, don't you? It's because you're so stupid that you get cheated on. He snapped at me as I fell silent. You're just after Dad's money, aren't you? He should have chosen a younger and prettier woman. I really don't see what he sees in you. I couldn't come up with a response when he pointed out my appearance. It's still a mystery to me why Keith, an actor-like figure, even if only an acquaintance through work, asked me out. One day, I overheard a conversation between Shane and his friend and learned that Shane had quit college and was just drifting around. Shane told me he needed $5,000 for a training program, so I lent it to him. Huh? Did I say that? You haven't told your dad you quit college, have you? You better tell him straight. That's when Shane glared at me with disdain. Shut up. Just remember what'll happen if you tell Dad. Does Shane want to talk about this himself? It's obvious that it would be better if he spoke directly rather than me telling Keith. After some hesitation, I decided not to tell Keith about Shane dropping out of college. I really wanted to talk to Keith about Shane's cold attitude towards me, but I didn't want to add to Keith's worries since he works late every night. After our marriage, Shane teamed up with my mother-in-law, who disliked me. My mother-in-law would pop by our house, a 30-minute drive away, and criticize how the cleaning wasn't up to par or how the meals were meager. One day, I was surprised to find her cooking dinner in the kitchen when I got home from work. Glancing at the trash bin, I saw the ingredients I had prepared earlier, thrown away mercilessly. She served beef and potato stew on the dining table, and started to have dinner facing Shane. Shane took a bite of the stew with a blissful expression. "Grandma's beef and potato stew is the best. Right?" she said, beaming with a smile. "Macy, why don't you learn to cook from Grandma? That way, you might be able to make decent meals." Poor Shane and Keith, having to eat terrible food every day. Leaving your husband and son to fend for themselves while you work all day, that's not what a good wife does. Keith is just too kind, letting you take advantage of him. If Grandma's house was closer, I'd go there for dinner every night. I just couldn't comprehend her nerves, throwing away someone else's food and bad-mouthing others while enjoying a meal. And I only work part-time, so I get home in the early evening. I do all the housework during the week by myself to support Keith, who is busy. I just can't understand why I'm being criticized by my mother-in-law. In short, she's unhappy that her daughter-in-law works. Why on earth did Keith remarry someone like you? He must have been tricked. He hasn't realized she's after his money. You think the same, don't you? Keith is a kind and stubborn man. I told him to marry a young lady from a prestigious family suitable for a company president, but he said he would choose his partner himself and wouldn't listen. After bad-mouthing me for over 2 hours, my mother-in-law left, leaving only Keith's share of dinner behind. Reluctantly, I ate dinner with the side dishes I had in stock, when Shane looked down at me with pity in his eyes and smirked. "Grandma still really hates you, huh?" "Seems like it." "Instead of just trying to please Dad, why don't you make an effort to be liked by your mother-in-law?" I was astounded by his nerve to say such a thing after stirring up trouble himself. But well, it's fine as long as my mother-in-law lives separately. The problem is Shane. Being so openly hostile, I couldn't help but feel we would never get along, which left me feeling down. That night, as usual, Keith was working overtime, so Shane and I silently had dinner together. While cleaning up after dinner, Shane unusually started a conversation. "Hey! What is it?" "Grandma invited me to go to Hawaii. Let's all go together." I was taken aback. "Huh, are you talking to me? Can I come along?" "Yeah. When you go on a trip, you get to see a different side of people, so maybe you and I could get along better. That's what Grandma says, anyway." Shane continued, his face flushing with embarrassment. My mother-in-law is the chairwoman of a group of companies run by the family. She's not living on a pension, but is still actively working, so she must have some financial cushion. I'm happy that she invited me on the trip, but more than that, I'm glad to see her and Shane making an effort to get closer to me. So, keep the 3rd week of next month free, okay? Got it, I'll take the time off. That evening, when Keith came home from work and I told him about it, his voice dropped in disappointment. "I've got a business trip overseas that week." "Then, should I turn them down?" "No, go ahead. If I stop by Hawaii on my way back, we might be able to grab a meal together." "That would be nice. But you've been really busy, haven't you? Are you getting enough rest?" I voiced my concern, and Keith gave me a gentle smile. "I'm fine, thank you." Keith knew that my mother-in-law didn't like me. To be invited on a trip by Mom, that's surprising. She can be stubborn and has a sharp tongue, but maybe she really does want to get along with Macy. Normally, you wouldn't want to go on a trip with someone you don't like. With that, I made up my mind. I'm going to get along with my mother-in-law and Shane in Hawaii. I'll turn our previously strained relationship into something we can laugh about later, closing the gap between us. The day of the Hawaii trip eventually arrived. Shane and I went to the airport with Keith. After seeing Keith off on his direct flight to Los Angeles, Shane and I waited in the lobby for a while until my mother-in-law, pulling her suitcase, appeared. When I thanked her for inviting me on the trip, she smiled brightly.
Hey, Macy. To avoid any trouble if you lose your wallet, how about you let me keep it for you?
Huh?
When we shop in Hawaii, I'm gonna cover everything, so you don't need it, right? Here, Shane too.
All right. Since Shane handed his wallet to his mother-in-law, I also took out my long wallet from my bag and entrusted it to her. She opened my wallet, nodded contentedly, and said,
You did bring your credit cards and bills.
Well, please take care of it. Putting my wallet in her bag, my mother-in-law exchanged a glance with Shane and smirked. I felt a sense of foreboding looking at their expressions.
And this, I was asked by Keith to give this to you. Could you open it right now?
Baffled, I opened the envelope that my mother-in-law handed to me. The moment I took out the contents, I felt like I was about to stop breathing.
A divorce notice? Why?
My mother-in-law grinned triumphantly.
You just couldn't get along with Shane and me. Keith has been complaining about you to me a lot.
I heard it too.
He said he's totally fed up with being around you.
I felt like I was about to collapse.
So, you're no longer needed.
Goodbye. My wallet. Ignoring my plea as if she hadn't heard it, my mother-in-law quickly left, pulling her suitcase behind her. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Keith, who was kind and sincere, had been bad-mouthing me behind my back to his mother and Shane. Staring at the signature on the divorce notice, my eyes widened in realization. This is Shane's handwriting. It looks similar to Keith's, but the unique quirks in the handwriting gave it away. My feelings instantly shifted from devastation to intense anger. I was a fool to trust these two. I was so determined to get along with them through this trip.
What a shame, loser. Maybe you'll never get to go on an overseas trip ever again.
With a despicable smirk on his face, Shane spat out those words.
I'm gonna have fun with my real family. You, fake mother, can just sleep on the streets.
Smiling back at Shane, who was sneering at me, I responded cheerfully. All right. I glared at Shane's back until he disappeared into the crowd. Until now, I had been holding back and enduring because they were Keith's family. But no more. I'm going to make them regret trampling over my feelings. Left penniless at the airport, I had no intention of succumbing to Shane and my mother-in-law's harassment. I used the transit card app on my cell phone to take the train and calmly went home. Shane commutes to university by bicycle, and the only functions my mother-in-law uses on her cell phone are messaging and calls. So they must have overlooked it. When I got home and my anger had somewhat subsided, I made a phone call to a certain person. After that, I spent some time spacing out on the sofa. It was a pity that the trip to Hawaii fell through, but I could go anytime I set my mind to it. Besides, there was no way it would have been fun with such mean-spirited people. Comforting myself with these thoughts, I spent the day reading books and watching dramas online, taking it easy. Come to think of it, this was the first time I had been alone since getting married. Even when Keith was away on business trips, Shane was around, and my mother-in-law would drop by unannounced, so there was always someone at home. The trip may have been ruined, but I could spend the entire week alone, doing whatever I pleased without having to see Shane or my mother-in-law. In a way, this was a luxurious vacation. The next day, after finishing my chores early, I went out to see a movie and enjoyed shopping at the mall. In the afternoon, while I was drinking tea and watching TV at home, my cell phone suddenly rang. I had been expecting this call around this time. Not wanting to answer right away, I ignored it for a while, but then the message notification sound kept ringing one after another. Annoyed, I finally answered the phone reluctantly, only to be shouted at by Shane. "Hey, old lady, get to Hawaii right now."
What? Don't be ridiculous. The sound from the TV? Are you at home? Grandma snatched my wallet and cards. How the hell am I supposed to get back? I have a transit app installed on my phone. It has my credit card information, and honestly, I'm not having much trouble. Well, fine, just get over here. Did something happen?
Shane, clearly agitated, responded with a rough tone.
I had a reservation at the hotel's 3-star restaurant, but they wouldn't let me in. Oh really, why not?
I deliberately ask, feigning ignorance.
That damn owner said, unless Miss Macy is accompanying you, I'm afraid we must refuse service. Can you believe that? So, you missed out on the beef fillet steak? That's a shame. The night view from the 36th floor is fantastic, and the meat is so tender and delicious.
I couldn't help but laugh as I spoke to the ranting Shane. He was clearly not over it yet.
Even if I try to go to the other restaurants inside the hotel, the staff turns me away right at the door. The hotel staff is even whispering about us in English. It's so uncomfortable. I had no choice but to go out to the convenience store with Grandma, and we ended up having banana juice for dinner. There's a supermarket outside the hotel, right?
You know your stuff. Shane muttered suspiciously, but quickly got worked up again.
Damn it! Why do I have to come all the way to Hawaii to be fed banana juice? Grandma got so angry she raised her blood pressure and had to lie down. This is all your fault.
I'm sorry, okay? I had no idea why this was my fault, but I apologized to avoid further hassle.
It's your fault, so you should compensate us for the hotel and meal expenses. We had a terrible experience because of you, so it's only right that you pay.
I couldn't help but laugh at this turn of events. All right, fine.
Wait, really? Yes. However, you'll need to repay the $5,000 I lent you first. And make sure to do it before I file for divorce. Oh, look at that, even after adding the hotel and meal expenses, there will still be change left over.
Shane fell silent all of a sudden. He must have been planning to default on his debt to me in the chaos of the divorce. Not that I had any intention of divorcing in the first place. After a brief silence, Shane spat out resentfully.
Just give that $5,000 to your stepchild as a gift. Such a stingy woman. This is why poor people will always be poor.
He really had the nerve to say whatever he wanted. At this point, I was so furious that I almost burst out laughing. Then I heard my mother-in-law's voice in the background.
Shane, are you talking to Macy? Yeah, Grandma. If you have something to say to her, better say it before we get divorced. We won't be seeing each other much longer.
Wait, let me talk to her. Macy, was your maiden name Smith? She asked with a tense voice. Yes, that's correct. I was expecting this question sooner or later.
Then, are you the daughter of the Smith Group?
Yes. My brother took over. I could hear a strange noise from the other end of the line. It seemed like my mother-in-law was about to faint, and Shane was panicking.
Grandma, what's wrong? If you're not feeling well, you should rest.
No, I'm fine. So that's why we got the reservation at the popular restaurant so easily. She murmured, still in shock.
The Smith Group? That's the chain of restaurants popular with celebrities, right? They're a big hit overseas too.
There was a pause before Shane exclaimed.
Wait, she's the daughter of the Smith Group?
Seems like it.
I wasn't told that. Were you hiding it? What a nasty woman.
Shane was ranting again, and I coolly responded.
That's strange. I'm sure I mentioned it during our pre-marriage introductions. Keith definitely knows about it.
Oh, did I? I've been so forgetful lately, it's troubling. She must have been half listening to what was being said about her future daughter-in-law. I added, my father was the president of the Smith Group before he passed away. I inherited his wealth, so I haven't been in need of money. I didn't marry Keith for his money, just to be clear.
Oh, I see. Then why are you working as a florist? You could live off Keith's earnings. A wife should quit her job and devote herself to her husband and children. That's right. Oh, in that case, I'll take that $5,000 back. Man, I should have asked for more money from a rich person like you. I missed an opportunity there.
Both my mother-in-law and Shane seemed shocked at first, but quickly reverted to their usual selves, throwing snide remarks my way.
The money I lent to Shane, I expect it to be returned.
That's a separate issue, isn't it?
You haven't submitted the divorce papers, have you?
Yeah, well.
Then, invest $1 million in our company.
I was at a loss for words. What?
A wife should do at least that much. To you, it's just pocket change.
I can't do that, no way. Even if I had the money, I couldn't give it to you. When I firmly declined, my mother-in-law, who had been whining in a coddled voice, suddenly turned aggressive.
What's wrong with you, stingy woman? Don't you even want to be useful? I feel sorry for Keith for marrying someone like you.
My mother-in-law started talking nonsense.
Fine, when Keith comes to Hawaii tonight, I'm gonna fill his ears with all sorts of bad stuff about you. He's gonna despise you and want a divorce. I think I'll make up some stories too. If I say I was bullied, our simple-minded dad will probably believe it.
Shane gleefully added to my mother-in-law's rant.
If you won't give us the money, we don't need a snotty daughter-in-law like you. I'll just tell Keith that you wrote the divorce papers yourself. He's the serious type. He's scary when he's mad. I'm looking forward to tonight.
You don't have to wait until tonight.
I've been listening here all along,
Keith said to his mother over the phone, and the two of them were silent.
Eh? Keith, you were supposed to join us after your business trip. You said you were working until yesterday and would arrive in Hawaii tonight.
My panicked mother-in-law and Shane were taken aback as Keith responded.
I got an image of the divorce papers from Macy, so I was surprised and called her back right away. I heard the story but was skeptical, so I rushed to finish my work and flew back home to listen to Macy and your conversation. Eh? Dad, you're misunderstanding something. Grandma and I were the ones being treated horribly by her,
Shane said, trying to sound sweet again. Keith cut him off sharply. It's too late now.
I've been listening to the whole conversation on speaker.
Who's the horrible one here?
It's Macy's fault for complaining. What a nerve, she even prepared the divorce papers for us out of kindness, my mother-in-law retorted.
Oh, that's right. You two are flying back tomorrow, aren't you? I've already informed the police, I added.
Police? Why? We haven't done anything wrong. Shane, you filled in the husband's section of the divorce papers, right?
That's a forgery of a private document. You're getting arrested. My line sent the two of them into turmoil, starting a blame game over the phone.
Hey, Grandma. If I knew we'd get arrested, I wouldn't have done it. What are you going to do about this? That has nothing to do with me. Shane was the one who planned and executed this whole mean thing to Macy. What? Are you kidding me?
Shane exploded at my mother-in-law over the phone.
The conversation isn't over yet. Mom, you knew Shane dropped out of college and was blowing a lot of money at strip clubs, yet you turned a blind eye and even gave him an allowance, didn't you?
Yeah, so what?
What's wrong with giving my adorable grandson some money?
That's right. Shane chimed in, backing her up. Keith coldly told them.
As long as you're paying from your own pocket, it's fine. But if you're embezzling from the company, that's a serious crime. That sounds bad, doesn't it?
Shane sounded pale over the phone.
Because, you see, I'm just a figurehead president. My salary is low.
Spare me, please. If I do that, I might lose the chance to take over my dad's company, you know? Shane lamented, and Keith declared.
That's not gonna happen.
I'm going independent. After a moment, Shane exclaimed.
Hey, that's not what we talked about. You said you'd make me your successor after I graduate from college.
Who was the one who dropped out after a year?
Damn it, okay, fine. I'll re-enroll in a different school and this time I'll study properly. So, keep your promise and let me be your successor.
Do you think I can entrust my precious company to a son who speaks so rudely to Macy? I felt a warmth in my chest as I looked at Keith's angry profile. Keith was on my side. I felt rewarded for enduring their harsh words all this time.
I'm going to establish a different company and I'll cut ties with you too.
My mother-in-law's scream came from the other end of the phone. Either Shane snatched the phone from her or she grabbed it herself because she started rattling off rapidly.
Keith, you're joking, right? Are you really going to prioritize that woman over your mother and your son, Shane? That's absurd, you'll definitely regret it. Please rethink this.
Considering how you and Shane treated Macy, I think this is fair. You guys don't care about me, you're just blinded by the profits I bring in. Keith spoke sternly to his mother. I care more about Macy, who isn't even related to me by blood but still cares for me, than a family like you guys.
Wait, don't hang up. I'll make sure Shane pays back his debt to Macy. So please, don't abandon just me.
Keith hung up in the middle of her sentence and immediately blocked her phone number and messages. Macy, even if they contact you, just ignore them. Oh, okay. Hey, are you really going to cut ties with them? I asked anxiously, and Keith said with conviction. It's okay. As I told my mom just now, I have no intention of getting along with a son or a mother who talks rudely to Macy. I'm sorry for making you endure it for so long. I was too caught up in work, and I know it was hard for you to talk to me. No, it's okay. From now on, I will support Keith in place of your mother and Shane. Keith smiled gently at me. It seems that after my mother-in-law and Shane returned to Japan, they intended to stay in a hotel for a while to evade the police. However, Keith informed the police about my mother-in-law's favorite hotel, so they were caught quite easily. This time, since I noticed the forgery and didn't submit it to the office, it was only attempted forgery of a private document, and since it was their first offense, they were sent home after a stern warning. However, the news of their arrest spread throughout the neighborhood, and my image-conscious mother-in-law could no longer go outside. Also, since she embezzled company funds, she was removed from her position as president while they were traveling, and she became unemployed. When relatives went to check on my in-laws' house, they found my mother-in-law in filthy pajamas, holed up in a dark room, a far cry from her fashionable days. It was also discovered that Shane had borrowed money not only from his mother but also from several relatives to fund his nights out at strip clubs. Since everyone in the family knew that Keith had cut ties with them, they demanded their money back immediately, fearing they might get cheated. To prevent Shane from running away, one of the relatives decided to let him live in their house and work as a handyman at their company. They would take his salary before giving it to him and use it to repay his debts. Shane was under constant surveillance by his relatives, a thorn in his side. At work, he was bossed around by employees younger than him, bowing his head and asking for work. As he promised, Keith started his own company with a few trusted subordinates. I continued my job at the flower shop as usual, sometimes using my flower arrangement qualification to decorate venues. One day, my work gained popularity for its good taste, and I even started getting called to decorate the venues of Keith's clients. Knowing that my work contributes to the positive image of Keith's company makes me incredibly happy. I want to continue to work hard and take pride in my job, supporting Keith along the way.